If you love intense war stories, forbidden romance, and twists that hit harder than bullets, subscribe now. New long-form stories every week for viewers in the USA, UK, and beyond who crave real emotional suspense. The desert wind carried secrets better than any courier, whispering them through the palm trees and across the whitewashed rooftops of Casablanca. And James Calder learned early in the war that if you listened carefully enough, the wind would tell you who was lying and who was already dead. He stood on the balcony of the safe house as dusk folded itself over the city, watching the street below where French officers laughed too loudly and German patrols marched too precisely, and beside him stood Eleanor Weiss, his wife on paper, his partner in deception, and possibly the most dangerous woman he had ever known. Her hand resting lightly on the railing as if nothing in the world weighed on her conscience, though James knew better, because he had read her file and memorized the contradictions, the missing years, the altered dates, the way intelligence reports described her as either an invaluable asset or an expertly planted enemy operative, depending on who had written the report and how many drinks they'd had before signing it. And now here they were, married under false names, hosting diplomatic dinners, passing information through coded glances and rehearsed arguments, pretending to be in love while something far more reckless and real grew between them despite every rule he'd sworn to follow when the war began. They had met months earlier in a smoky London briefing room where the air smelled of damp wool and fear, and Eleanor had walked in late, unapologetic, her accent refined but unplaceable, her eyes too calm for someone entering a world where calm got you killed. And when she shook James's hand she did it firmly, without flirtation, as if to make it clear that sentiment would not interfere with survival. Yet even then he noticed the way she studied him. Not as a woman studies a man, but as one operative measures another for weakness, and he should have known that was the first test, the one he failed without realizing it, because he smiled back. Their assignment had been simple on paper and suicidal in reality: infiltrate Casablanca, pose as an anti-Nazi French couple, gather intelligence on German troop movements in North Africa, and report back through a chain of contacts that shifted weekly. They memorized each other's fake histories, learned each other's rhythms, practiced arguments and reconciliations until they sounded authentic even to themselves, and somewhere between coded radio transmissions and staged jealousy at embassy parties, the performance stopped being entirely fake. James noticed it first in small moments: Eleanor correcting his French under her breath, her fingers brushing his wrist when she was nervous, the way she watched him sleep as if memorizing his face in case she never saw it again. And it terrified him more than enemy gunfire, because love was a liability and liabilities got people executed in back alleys with no witnesses and no graves. Casablanca was a city balanced on a knife edge, neutral in name only, crawling with spies who all believed they were the smartest person in the room, and James knew from experience that the ones who believed that longest were the first to disappear. They moved carefully, hosting dinners for German officers who drank too much and talked too freely, slipping information into innocuous conversations, laughing at jokes that made their stomachs turn. And Eleanor played her role flawlessly, charming when necessary, distant when appropriate, always one step ahead, and that should have reassured him, but instead it fed the doubt that began to coil in his chest like a second heartbeat. Because flawless was suspicious. Flawless meant training, and training meant allegiance, just not necessarily to his side. The message arrived on a